Let's talk about Dr. Victor Fries, aka Mr. Freeze, in my DC Cinematic Universe. Victor Fries was a brilliant cryogenist, and eventually while working in that field, he would meet an equally brilliant cryogenist named Nora. The two would fall madly in love, get married, and work together on their formula to create a perfect substitute for human blood that would allow them to cryogenically freeze people and eventually unfreeze them without the horrible crystallization effects that actually happen in real cryogenic science. But as they were working on this formula for this blood substitute, Nora would collapse in the office one day. They would take her to the doctor and they would find out that she had very late-stage cancer. It was far too late to do anything, but Victor refused to let his wife die. Instead, Nora became the first human test subject for their blood substitute. And he put his wife into cryogenic stasis to keep her frozen until one day cancer could be cured. You see, the company that he did this for would later find out that he was using company property to keep his wife alive. Victor injected Nora with their experimental blood substitute and put her into one of these tubes, a process that typically costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so the boss viewed this guy as a thief. And so the two guys that Victor thought his boss had sent to rough him up were actually sent to kill him. And Victor was drowned in a pool of the blood substitute that he and Nora had formulated. Now, the guys thought that he was dead because he had stopped breathing and he was fully submersed in below freezing liquid. So they just walked off to go wash their hands and go get stuff to clean up a dead body. But shortly after they left the room, Victor would sit up from the tank, coughing up a lungful of this blood substitute, and his body would begin to change. You see, this blood substitute was supposed to very slowly be intravenously introduced to the blood and allowed to circulate naturally as the body itself was incrementally lowered and lowered in temperature to below freezing as the person slowly fell asleep within the cryostasis chamber. And so while it did lower his body temperature to below freezing, it didn't do anything else like put him to sleep. It just made it so that Victor Fries had to live in sub-zero temperatures. And so when those two men entered the room again and didn't find the body, Victor came out of the shadows and killed both men. He then turned the temperature of the entire lab all the way down as he worked on taking apart one of these cryogenic chambers and formulating himself a suit. Victor then went on a crime spree against the company that had hired him, killing dozens of people, including his boss. This would lead him into conflict with Batman, and he would be thrown into a special cell in Blackgate Penitentiary. But you see, Batman wasn't heartless. Batman found out why this entire thing happened. And so during Victor's first week in Blackgate, he was visited by Bruce Wayne. And Bruce Wayne let him know that he found everything that happened. And so Wayne Enterprises bought that company. They own it now. And Nora's storage will be paid for by the Wayne Foundation. But then guess what happens? Lex fucking Luthor cures cancer. That's right, motherfuckers. Nora Fries is unfrozen and cured of cancer a couple years later. So during the events of my second Superman movie, after that big reveal that Lex cures cancer, when we get a montage of people being cured from cancer, Nora Fries is one of them. And there, escorted by Blackgate guards at her side as she receives the cure, is her husband, Victor. Boom! Happy ending for Mr. Freeze.